Hello, so thank you for the invite to come and speak here. So my talk is going to be necessarily very high level, not to steal the thunder from those talks coming after us, so apologies for any repetition. So basically I'm going to do three things today: provide an update, high-level overview of the system design, although I think that's probably redundant given the audience, and then what it's all about, unlocking the future. So if we could just go to the update, please. Next slide, please, sorry. Okay, so at a top level, we have nearly 13 million meters operating, so SMETS 1, in DOM and non-DOM. And we have, that's an old number, I think the number is substantially higher, but well in excess of 250,000 SMETS 2 installed now and operating. So clearly a big achievement. So basically, as well, 1 million were installed in each quarter in 2018. And again, for those of you who are interested, all these statistics are available via the government website. So I hope we'll make the presentations available afterwards so that people can find this. In terms of recent research, 8 out of 10 people with a smart meter would recommend them. 88% of prepaid customers said it made topping up easier, and more than 80% have taken steps to reduce energy waste. So at a top level, more benefits for consumers who monitor trends and anomalies in their energy use. So clearly good stuff. So we can move on to the next slide. So in terms of the smart metering system, I'm sure you're fully aware of this, but we have effectively made up of three chunks. So we have the premises, so domestic and smaller non-domestic, and effectively the equipment in the home is offered to all consumers. It's basically a smart electricity meter, smart gas meter, communications hub, and also an in-home display. In terms of the entity to manage the communications with that equipment, so that's Smart DCC Limited, of which we have a few representatives here today. And effectively, there's two service providers below that. So you have the communication service providers. So in the north, that is Arqiva, who use a long-range radio technology operating at 423 megahertz to do coverage for the WAN in north of England and Scotland. And then in central and south, we have Telefonica using 2G, 3G to achieve the coverage. And again, just to state, so something that's sometimes overlooked is there's basically contracted coverage targets for 99.5% or in the region of 99.5% for all premises in GB. So it's quite a substantial connectivity that's being rolled out here. In terms of data service provider, that's CGI, so they basically manage the interfaces between, sorry, I'll just click it, sorry. That's fine, sorry. I'm all right with that. So they manage the service requests to and from the meters. And then we have DCC users. So basically three categories. So we have the energy suppliers, we have distribution and gas network operators, and then we have other DCC, other users, more of which later. So another point to bring out here is that in terms of the other communications technology, the equipment in the home is connected through a networking technology called Zigbee. So basically it's a more of an industrial sort of home area network rather than a, something more like Wi-Fi. And again, in terms of the technology behind that, we're using two frequencies. One is the 2.4 gigahertz license-exempt band, which we feel will work in at least 70% of GB properties. And what that basically means is in GB, electricity, gas meters and kitchens where the IHD lives can generally be in every single combination and permutation you can imagine. And therefore, that presents a connectivity challenge. So through various hand modelling exercises and measurement campaigns, we believe 2.4 will work. I guess you can say that the 12.8 million is quite a good indicator that it is working, but again, there may be an element of profiling going on there. But in order to fill the residual gap, we have a sub-gigahertz technology that will be available later this year. So again, the Zigbee side of things is done. That works on 868 megahertz. And that should take coverage to at least 95% of all homes. So again, when you think about that, when you add the HAN and WAN together, you effectively have the ability to sort of connect consumer devices in 95% of homes that can then basically access data or get updates through DCC via electricity meters. So it's quite a substantial network. And in terms of the remaining 5% home area network gap, there's something called alternative HAN, and energy suppliers have basically an obligation to sort the problem. They have done that by setting up a company or an entity called Alternative HAN Company, and they will basically procure technologies and services to make up the gap in the 5% of properties where 868 or 2.4 won't work on its own. And those technologies will likely be a combination of wire-to-wireless bridges, so taking the wireless Zigbee, putting it through mains wiring so that it re-emerges somewhere else and can then be picked up by consumer devices. So we expect some activity in that later on this year too. Next slide, please. So in terms of probably what's more of interest today is the data available. So effectively, broadly, you have consumption and pricing information available from the smart metering system. So that basically means kilowatt-hour readings, either ad hoc or historical half-hourly. And effectively, the electricity data can be available every 10 seconds if you access it locally. It's available substantially less than 10 seconds if you're doing it over the DCC. So there's two data access routes. So the first data access route is DCC. So basically no additional equipment is required, and companies can access data by becoming a DCC other user or by partnering with other DCC users. So we are seeing some activity there where those who are possibly helping others become a DCC user have themselves become a DCC other user and may be looking to offer, for want of a better word, proxy services. So hopefully this market will develop quite soon and will sort of facilitate, I guess, smaller companies who may not wish to incur the timescale and complexity of becoming a DCC user to be able to access consumer data. And the point to note is that it's in the title. So any access to granular data, so half hourly, or by pairing a CAD, the 10-second stuff, that has to be with consumer consent. So the other user has to obtain consumer consent to access that data. So in terms of data access route 2, we have this thing called a CAD, so it's a consumer access device. So this has caused no amount of confusion amongst industry and other groups. So basically, there's sort of a written definition, and our definition is it's basically any device that has the requisite Zigbee radio in so that it can join the home area network. So effectively, it could be a fridge, a car, a hairdryer, anything. So long as it's got the Zigbee side of things in there, that makes it a CAD. And effectively, the way you get that on the home area network is you need to find, so you either need to be a DCC user, or you need to find a DCC user who will pair it on your behalf. There's essentially a number of routes by which it can be paired. One route is basically the consumer providing the information written on the device to somebody so that they can put that through in the service request. Other ways are more automated. So where a service provider sends that CAD to someone, effectively, if the CAD more than likely also has some sort of other connectivity, such as to the internet, chances are it will be a seamless experience if the consumer's already pre-registered. And again, the main difference here is that for electricity, you can get your better than 10-second updates. So for gas, best update is half an hour because the gas meter is a sleepy device. So what that means is basically only communicates once every 30 minutes to basically give us the 15 or thereabouts battery life to avoid frequent meter exchanges in consumer homes. So we go to the next one, please. So in terms of the innovation opportunity, so I guess there's going to be a number of talks about this later on, so I won't go into too much detail. But in terms of the things we've seen, and things we've been aware of over this sort of journey over the past few years, so switching, we know people are trying to do things around switching, so basically taking people's data and then making the whole switching process a bit more automated. I guess the other point to note is that Electricity smart meters, they support 48 registers. So basically what that means, for example, is you could have a different price for every half hour of the day. Currently, if you're switching between tariffs, you basically only need one number. In a world where time of use tariffs become a bit more prevalent, it's probably going to be much easier for the consumer for that data just to be accessed rather than having to try and remember 32 different readings or however many registers have been set up on the meter. There's energy efficiency, so effectively, because you've got the half-hourly data, if you're putting interventions into the home, you can potentially see what effects those interventions have had by doing a bit of before and after and by comparing it to similar homes. Smart appliances, so this is the obvious one, effectively where you have got time of use tariffs. Appliances can either directly connect to the HAN, or if there's some sort of smart home hub that's connected to the HAN, they can basically ask what the price is going to be now and any time over the next coming months. There's also the ability, if they're asking frequently enough, if there has been a critical price incident or something similar, they will pick up that price as well. Demand-side management kind of fits into smart appliances. Heating, again, optimised according to preference prices. So again, we've seen a bit of activity around where you have gas and electric heating. You can do a bit of a trade-off depending on what the energy prices are to choose to either heat your water with electricity or possibly through gas is an obvious one. Community energy and renewables. So the other thing to stress is smart metering does support microgeneration. So every smart meter is capable of measuring export. And in SMETS2, the smart metering system in the home can support 4 electricity meters. So where people do have microgeneration and where the service provider wants to basically access that data through DCC, there should be no obstacle to doing that. Don't ask me how we arrived at 4, I can't remember. So health and social care, this is all around looking at patterns of consumption and possibly combining it with other data to infer patterns of behaviour in the home, or is someone up, is someone down type of thing. Security and peace of mind ties into that. And then we've got this, hopefully, emerging world of smart tariffs. So basically to make use of the different generation mixes that's happening at the moment. So we go to the next slide, please. So in terms of smart meter innovation, there's a number of different funding streams at the moment. So there's one I'm involved with, which is recently £3 million programme to basically demonstrate smart charging of electric vehicles using the smart metering system. So that's something in flight at the moment. There's another one in flight, which is £5 million available to develop new tools using smart meter data to measure the thermal efficiency of homes. And then there's the ND CEMIC programme that some of you may be aware of, which is £8.8 million to basically drive smart meter innovation in schools, retail and hospitality sectors. So effectively, the bottom one there is all about non-domestics that historically possibly aren't the targets of people offering energy deals, because possibly they go after larger customers with multiple sites. And effectively, that programme there is all about how do you actually make that data available both to the consumer, but also in such a form that the consumer can effectively easily share it with others to hopefully kickstart a bit more of a competitive market in the smaller non-domestic sort of energy and data space. So next slide, please. In terms of publications, I have a couple of copies with me today, but they're also downloadable off the web. So smart meters unlocking the future. That covers a lot of the ground in this presentation. So it's a new publication highlighting how smart meters can support innovation. So again, covering the things I've spoken about, but all in one place with a number of other links there to other documents, should you require further information. And then I think that is it. That's the end. Sorry, this wasn't my talk, so apologies. I should thank the person who put it together, but I was at a late draft. So thank you very much. Any questions? Are we doing questions now? Yes, or yeah. Okay.
So any questions for Peter, if people just want to throw their hands up? Hello? No, there we go. Are there any questions for Peter? Yeah, Dulce.
Hi, Peter. Dulce Coelho. I'm a I'm a researcher here at University of Salford, technical director of the VR Center, but also have interests in smart metering. The CAN access to the data, it's still linked to the supplier. So is he going? How is that going to be charged to third parties that want to install a product in a consumer's home? So because they will need to give you the Zigbee keys so that you can pair your device on the.
So it's not linked to the energy supplier. So any company that is a DCC other user or has access to a DCC other user can pair the CAD.
So, but is that charge-free or? Because at the moment there is no definition of.
So a consumer can ask their energy supplier to pair it, and the energy supplier doesn't charge, or they can ask another user to pair it. And by and large, because they're trying to offer you, a sort of a commercial offering, I guess there's every incentive not to charge.
Any more questions for Peter? Oh, one there. Do you want to pass?
Good morning, Tim Arkinstall. I work for Nokia UK. Just the thought I had as you were going through that CAD slide was the water side of the industry, obviously not been able to connect through the infrastructure we've pulled together here with the DCC. If the water meters had the Zigbee capabilities, could they then connect up to the CAD device and then integrate that into the solution?
So the scope of the smart metering program was electricity and gas. So it was an active decision not to include water. In terms of, I guess, there have been various discussions with sort of water industry over the years, and I guess where we are is a number of options are open to them, and I guess technically it could be possible to use DCC, but it would be subject to sort of cost benefit and also, comparing it with other routes. So again, the water meters from memory, they would be sleepy devices. Sleepy devices basically put certain technical constraints on the communications hub because they're sleepy, but you may wish to get stuff from them straight away. The communications hub effectively stores a sort of up to half-hourly old version of the gas meter. So basically, if water metering were to go down the same way, it may require a sort of similar, we call it a proxy function. It may require a similar proxy function on the comms hub, which introduces, further technical change. But, conceptually, no technical hurdles, but I guess it would be subject to quite substantial sort of cost benefits and also, I guess, a number of consequential regulatory and sort of commercial changes.
Hi, so Maya from Urban Chain. We use blockchain technology to reduce energy bills. And what we've developed is a platform which is using smart meters data. But the point is, in blockchain, you don't see any data from users. Data is bounced back to the user and it's in the ledger, so we don't have access to the data. So the point of getting consent from consumer to get access to smart meter data, how does that sound here and how is that going to work?
So, sorry if I misunderstood the question. Is the question why do we need to ask for consumer consent?
Well, for the new technologies like us, we don't. We are asking for the access, but we don't see it or we don't act on it in a sense. It's just everything is in a black box, and and data is coming back. It's a feature of new technology. So, is there any opportunity? I mean, is this kind of still valid? Consumers consent.
So again, is the question around we'd like to have anonymous access? We don't really need to know. So again, if you look at the DNOs as an example, they are able to put forward privacy plans to justify why they can access groups of consumers' data, without the consent. So I believe, and it's there's other work going on in the programme. Possibly, I have a colleague here I can consult over lunch. But I believe there's sort of similar work, and I think there's other academic institutions trying to ask to do the same thing. So I'm not best placed to answer that now, but I do know there's activity. I guess if we exchange details, I can probably get you a better answer. So apologies.
Okay, any more questions for Peter? Okay, thanks very much, Peter. Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, good.